Okay, I've got about 1:31. Let's call this committee meeting to order. Test, test. Can anybody hear me? It's not going out? Okay. I've got 1:30. Let's call this meeting to order. If everyone will quieten it down, please cut your cell phones off. And Ms. Harper, if you'll call the roll.
Representative Reynolds.
Here.
Representative Blackshear. Here. Representative Hall. Representative Bracy. Here. Representative Easterbrook. Here. Representative Gibbons.
Here.
Representative Lamb. Here. Representative Lee. Here. Representative McCampbell. Representative Mooney. Representative Sarles. Here. Representative Sales. Representative Underwood. Here. Representative Warren. Here. Representative Witt.
Here.
13 of the
Thank you, Ms. Diane. Members, I apologize for missing the last two committee meetings. I've literally been tied up on a little law enforcement piece of legislation, so I had a much younger and smarter co-chair that stepped up and did an awesome job, so appreciate Blackshear and his leadership. So we'll get started and call the first bill.
House Bill 30 by Representative Wood D., Judge of Probate of each county to conduct post-election audit.
Representative Wood, welcome. We'll let you present your bill, and as you know, we have a public hearing called, and we'll work through that, and we will not take a vote today.
No, we don't have one on that.
Oh, you don't have one on yours? Okay, I'm sorry. Mine.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
because that was news to me. You had me scared there for a minute.
We thought we were having.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thought we were having a public hearing.
No,
on
Mr.
yours.
Chairman. Let's just stay how we are. Thank you, committee members,
go ahead.
and thank you, Mr. Chairman, because people don't realize all the responsibilities that chairpersons have while they're also trying to do their own bills. So thank all of you that do that job. House Bill 30 is the post-election audit bill that passed through this committee last year and also passed on the House floor with 83 yes votes, 7 nays, and 9 abstentions. Alabama Code Section 1716.2 outlines how our state conducts recounts. The post-election audit bill is not a recount, but a measure to ensure that the DS-200 tabulators that process the paper ballots that we all fill out are working properly. Post-election audits ensure public confidence in the election process, and the company that produces the tabulators even recommend that we perform an audit. Audits increase transparency and demonstrate that elections are fair and accurate. Mr. Chairman, there will also be an amendment to House Bill 30.
Thank you, Representative. And I think Paul Lee has an amendment.
I do, and my understanding is agreed upon with everyone. And all of you have it in your packet. Replace, you see it? Okay, well, I'll read it to you. Replace line 37 on page 2 with the following. The canvassing board of each county shall randomly select at. The next one, replace line 58 through 62 on page 3 with the following. The post-election audit shall be conducted and completed by the time election returns required to be sent to the Secretary of State and must be certified. Replace lines 97 through 102 on page 4 with the following. Audit by manual tally or by use of ballot counters provided that at least 30 randomly selected ballots are individually manually examined and compared to the ballot counter result for each selected ballot.
Any questions from the committee on the amendment? Do I have a motion? Motion. Second? Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, your bill. Just a minute. Yeah, yes, sir. Members, any other questions back on the bill now? Yeah. Sworn.
Thank you, Representative Woods. I think it constantly concerns me, number one, as to why is this necessary? It also concerns me when I look at this and said that this is going to be $35,000 per day as to where we're getting the money from, because everything I hear, we don't have money. So is this a necessary expenditure that we're doing? But I just need a justification as to why is this timely at this time causing for such financial obligations to the probate judge's office?
Thank you for your question, Representative. And what I will say is this is the third year I brought the bill. I would like to ask a question. Are any of the members that sit here today, have any of you won a close election? How close? Okay, well, 6 votes. You're looking at a girl that won by 6 votes. You're looking at a girl that went to bed and they said you lost. My newspaper the next day said I lost the race. 6 votes. Up until that time, I never appreciated the voter. I had people coming up to me at the grocery store saying, hey, let me tell you what we did to ensure that we voted for you. Let me tell you that I went and picked up my neighbor. I went to the gas station and people came up and told me their stories. I was actually humbled for the first time. It was the 5th time I had ran for office. I never had a close election. So it was never important to me. The vote and the voter became extremely important to me after that. Now I'm here and I won, but it was about the election process and bolstering confidence to make sure that the voter does exactly that, goes out of their way to go and vote for all of us. I had a lady that's in the audience go to, I know we've got to hurry, you've got, Chairman, she went to a public testing, and she put in a copied ballot. And these machines took the copied ballot. It would have taken 3 copied ballots in my district at that election to bring me to either a tie or a loss. So we can't afford that. We can't afford to let the wrong person get into office because we're not checking these tabulators. So I think you've got a very valid point, and I want you to hear mine. I think there are issues with the tabulators no one wants to talk about. They keep trying to tell me to be quiet. So we just need to check them. We need to make sure that they're doing their job. That's what we need to check. So I appreciate your question.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Representative McCammon?
I guess I have somewhat the same concern. Yeah, there could be, but that's saying that the people are not manning them, the people that we have hired to actually run the election. You're saying then that you don't trust them either, okay? That's what that says to me. I have trouble putting this additional, burden on offices that we are not fully staffing and aren't fully paying for. I still have problems with that. I understand what you're saying, and I can appreciate it. But I hope you understand that I don't see a need for this at this time. I don't.
I appreciate your comments. One last thing. We're the last state in the United States to not conduct post-election audits. Every other state thinks that it's necessary, funds it, and are doing it, except Alabama, except us. But thank you so much, Representative, for your comments.
Good. Representative Brace?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll be brief. I think it's a great idea. I support it. When you look at, I've seen the video where you've had the fake ballots run through the machine and be counted. And I think that we have to have more checks and balances in place. We don't have watermarks on our ballots to make sure that that these ballots are real. It's just like the money that's printed. It's ways of checking to make sure that the money is real that we use. We need to be able to make sure that these ballots are real. So if this bill does not pass, what's going to be put in place to protect one person, one vote, to make sure that that process is in place and is supported? It may be another avenue that we could take that's not as expensive, but right now this is what we have because no one else is coming up with anything else that can help fix this problem. And this could potentially be a big problem with the elections that we run. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. A couple of members have asked me about the physical note. We kind of dove into that yesterday with our physical office, and the $35,000 would cover all of the count across the state of Alabama. And that's kind of dependent on how many people they have working and, what their salaries are. So it will fluctuate a little bit. but we feel like they could probably be done in one day. Is that accurate?
The largest precinct, one race that I found had 2,900 votes. I found one that had one precinct. So, you know, it's just going to depend on the random selection of the precinct and the race. Yes, sir.
Very good. You have a question? Representative Lim?
I just got a comment. Like in Tuscaloosa County, we got one precinct that has 9,000 people in it. If that's randomly selected, that'll take days to recount it manually. And each, you know, I've been in county government for like 30 or 40 years. And when you get your ballot, they count that ballot. So if there's more ballots come out of the machine than they issued, you already know there's a problem.
Sure.
And the paper is special paper because years ago, the printing cost was so high, I'd asked the chairman, I said, hey, can we just hire us a printer and we'll print our own ballots? And no, you can't because that paper is special paper.
And that paper is actually part of DS, the people that do the DS tabulators are having those papers printed. It would be a much better idea if we could do that within our own state. And that's something else that we need to look at. I appreciate your comments, but the largest ballot box that I found had 2,900 people who actually voted. So I don't know if you've had 9,000 votes, but I haven't seen that
That's
in any
just
of the
one
data.
precinct.
Okay, I didn't find that in anything that I looked at. That could have been in a previous election. I didn't see that. I had 2,900 was the largest one that I found.
That's what my probate judge is. I mean, I voted in that precinct. I know it's a lot of people there.
Yes, sir, I understand. Yes,
Thank you.
sir.
Any other questions? Representative Witt?
Yeah, so just to clarify your comments earlier, maybe I misunderstood that. You told me that you had someone copy a ballot and voted in the machine.
They copied their ballot at home, took it, they actually trimmed it up to match it. This was out of testing, and they put 8 of those ballots in. The machine counted all 8 copied ballots.
So is that not illegal?
It was illegal, and that's
I'm
what they
saying
told
she
her.
voted 8 times.
It was at a testing center.
Okay, that's what I want to make clear
Yes.
because your comments
Yes.
were not
I'm glad you said
clear.
that. Yes, sir.
Clear on
Thank you.
that. Second question, follow up. You know, I don't know that this is a Democrat or Republican issue. It doesn't seem to be. I think, you know, Representative Bracy, and we've had some good conversation. I'm just interested, where is the Probate Judge Association?
Well, I worked with them all last summer to bring a bill that had everything in it that I thought they wanted. Then they went to their conference and said that they weren't going to support the bill. So at that point, we brought a substitute that we thought did everything that we wanted in the very beginning anyway. That was dropped. And now we have the 3 amendments that reverted back to the probate judges. But honestly, Representative, not one of them that came and met with me last summer has called me. Not their lobbyist, not one probate judge. I know they've called you, but I invited them to come. I invited them to the table. Not one has called me.
Okay, so was it a split decision? Do you know anything how that
I
vote
know
was or
nothing
anything?
because none of them have called me.
Okay.
Not
Well,
one.
I've heard from both of my probate judges, so thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, committee? Do I have a motion for a favorable? The chair will second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Your bill receives a favorable report.
Thank you.
Representative Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Thank you.
All right, next bill, Ms. Harper.
House Bill 263 by Oliver, 911 fund, further provide for distribution of money.
Chairman
Mr. Chairman, committee, this is a bill, House Bill 263. It updates funding opportunities for local 911 districts. In this state, a monthly fee is collected from telephone service providers to fund the delivery of 911 services. The fee is collected by the state 911 board, and much of this money is then sent directly to the local 911 districts to fund day-to-day operations. But roughly 20% of these funds remains with the state 911 board and is set aside in what is commonly referred to as the cost recovery fund. This legislation proposes to establish a process for cost recovery funds to be more efficiently provided to 911 districts and to clarify how these funds can be utilized. This legislation specifically provides for cost recovery funds to be used as follows: to cover costs for required training and certification of local public safety telecommunicators, to cover costs for advisory services provided to districts, to create a grant program for districts demonstrating financial hardship to be distributed equally among Alabama's 85 existing 911 districts. The legislation also requires the state 911 board to establish by rule the maximum balance to be carried over in the cost recovery fund at the conclusion of each fiscal year. Subject to your questions.
Any questions, members? Ms. Hall?
Thank you. So the recovery fund that you're talking about, what exactly are they used for?
Well, right now they hold the recovery funds. They're trying to find a way to distribute them to the local level. That's what the legislation does. Now, what they'd be used for, and we have legislation to try to reduce the number of 911 boards that we have, where we operate answering points where telecommunicators operate. There are a lot of them. So we're trying to find ways to do that more economically. But at this point, this is a way to distribute those cost recovery funds to be used to train telecommunicators or to cover day-to-day operators or operations at these places.
And it said advisory services. What is that? Is that?
A lot of times you hire people to come in and help you train people or to advise buying equipment or to, it's a fairly complex operation to run a 911 PSAP.
I mean, as I read it, I say this is a complex situation, and so you said there are more than 100 911.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Well, actually, there are 85 existing 911 in Alabama. But you think about, we have 67 counties. That's a lot of point of service answering points.
How many board members are there?
I'm sorry?
How many board members?
I'm not
for the
sure.
911.
I do not know.
All right. Okay.
If you'd like for me to find out, I'm sure there's someone here that does.
That would be good, but I'm open for getting that information later as well.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Any other questions from committee? I called my 911 director, and he absolutely supports this legislation. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Your bill receives a favorable report. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next bill, Ms. Harper. We can.
House Bill 359 by Representative Treadaway, firefighters to include Parkinson's disease and occupational diseases to be compensated for death or disability.
Chairman Treadaway.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. This bill would add Parkinson's disease to the list of firefighters' occupational diseases. Now, the key is on page 3, if you go to line 75. Parkinson's disease that manifests itself in a firefighter during a period in which the firefighter is in the service of the city, if the firefighter, that's a big key, if the firefighter demonstrates that he or she, while employed by the city, was exposed to a known toxin that is associated with an increased risk of Parkinson's disease, in which case the Parkinson's disease shall be presumed to arise out of and in the course of the firefighter's employment. He would have to demonstrate that, and if it occurred in that course of his work, I believe he ought to be compensated. So I'm open to any questions.
Thank you. Any questions, committee? Do I have a motion? Have a motion, second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Your bill receives a favorable report. Thanks, sir. Next bill, Ms. Harper.
Senate Bill 60 by Senator Albritton, Alabama Corrections Institutions Finance Authority Maximum Bonding Authority Increase.
Chairman Albritton, welcome.
Thank you. Good to see you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for having me before the committee. SB 60 is a bill that updates our 2021 plan for constructing prisons. As you know, we're in the process of building Elmore and well on our way of getting that completed here within the next 10, 12 months or so. We are looking forward to beginning in Escambia, hopefully this year at some point, getting the contracts and such signed and dirt moving sometime this year. However, when we first passed this bill in 2021, we authorized $785 million to build 2 prisons. We were a little off. We will wind up with the total cost of the Elmore Prison at $1.086 billion. When we went to market on the 785, we were able to sell $500 million worth of bonds. So we have been searching, as I like to say, the sofa cushions and other places, the car ashtrays and whatever else, to find some monies to put together to finish this project. We've been able to get enough through those means, between the borrowing of $500 million and also capturing other monies, to be able to have enough money to finish the construction of Elmore and to build approximately 60% of the Escambia. This bill, what we have before you, will allow the state to proceed without interruption the construction of the project that we conceived and authorized in 2021. It will allow us to get these replacement beds there. And please keep in mind, these are not new beds. These are simply replacement beds for those that have been or shall be closed down. Also keep in mind, now y'all don't know this, but in our Judiciary Committee today in the Senate, we passed 2 bills, both of which will have the effect of increasing the number of inmates in our prisons. We don't have the beds for them. So my purpose here is to be able to get enough money that can be borrowed, does not require, it does not give a time frame, but it gives the flexibility to the ASIFA to be able to go and borrow additional monies to finish the construction on this project. That's what we do. Any questions?
Just a comment, Mr. Chairman. I think we probably got a little over $600 million right now for the second Escambia prison. That's allocated, and certainly, as you know, in the governor's 2026 budget proposal, I think we've got another $40 million conditional there.
Correct.
And I just say that to say that this does not require the ASIFA or the governor to do anything. It's an opportunity if we had to go back and get more. Certainly, we hope we don't have to use this, right, Mr. Chairman?
Correct.
Hope we don't use this, but it's just a safeguard that we need in place.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, you know, when we look at the where we are as far as our economy and where it appears clearly in the last, this week at least, and last, that there's a downturn that we may be in, that's going to affect us. That's going to affect us in this budget, the one that we are under, until through September. And we're working on, and the chairman's working on the budget for next year. It's full of difficulties. What this bill does is it helps us resolve the issues and move forward. There's no danger as far as our borrowing authority or anything of that nature. So that's where we are.
Any questions by the members? Representative Witt?
Just really, I guess, a statement. I hate to have to go to borrow money with the state, and as a banker, I do. I actually, but you know, I certainly would like for you to try to find some revenue sources, additional revenue sources in the Senate, if you could.
And we shall.
Thank you.
We shall continue. We're not trying to say we're going to go out there and be reckless. But the chairman and I are on the ASIFA committee. We're very sensitive to that. I'm
confident you can do that. Find some revenue sources.
Yes, sir. What's the rocket? Never mind.
Is that all?
You mentioned, thank you. You mentioned that for the prison that we're building now, we captured other monies. Were those federal dollars, or were there other monies in addition to the federal dollars that
we caught every stinking dime that we could?
Such as
federal money. If you'll recall, we used some ARPA money that came in that was considered lost revenue. We were legal in being able to do so. We used that heavily. We also captured monies that were left over. We used some supplemental money that came in over the past years. So, yeah, it's been a combination of state and federal money.
Thank you.
Any other question?
This is not a question, it's a comment, because it disturbs me every time we have a conversation about all the money we are putting in to correction. But I think that as we move from this point, we're going to have to make the same commitment that we've made to corrections, to mental illness. I can't say we're putting $1 billion in correction and we got folks out here walking around day after day mentally ill with no resources. So I think as the two committees come together and we start spending money, we need to really give some serious consideration to giving mental illness the same interest and importance that we give to our correction system.
Representative Warren, I appreciate that comment, and I join you in that. And I would suggest that this committee, the Ways and Means and General Fund committees, actually have increased funding tremendously in mental health. We have done so many things there. It hasn't been enough, but we started from a different level also. We are still trying to correct from where we closed Cersei and others. We're going to have to recreate that. We've got a long road to go with that, but we're making progress, and I'm with you. We need to move forward in that way.
Any other questions, committee? Representative Mooney.
Just some questions trying to understand historical context of where we've been and where we are. Originally, we had agreed and passed that there would be $785 million in available bond funding to pay for the 2 prisons, correct? So the price estimate for the 2 prisons at that point in time would have been $785 million.
That's correct.
Okay. We only got $500 million in going to the market.
Of that 785, yes.
Okay. When that 785 was passed, it was available immediately, correct? That bonding availability was available.
It was available to be able to go on market, yes.
On market immediately. Obviously, either we overestimated the ability for us to get funds at that time, or did the process in putting those bonds out for purchase delay to a point where the cost for the bonds went up to a point that we did not get the same amount that we'd have gotten if they had been issued initially at that point in time?
I would suggest that those questions probably need to be directed to the folks that took the bonds actually to market. That's out of my wheelhouse and such. But
Sure, I can understand that. I'm just asking them
Sure.
to be in the record because citizens have a right to know what their funds go for.
But I would suggest, if I may, Representative, that part of the issue there was not financial, it was political. There were riots in London, there were riots in New York, and I believe even in Chicago, which that maybe, I better keep my mouth shut. Anyway, there were riots there dealing with our taking this to market because of the purpose of it. And that had an effect on the marketability.
Then the $1,086 million cost for the project in
1.086.
1.086
Yes, sir.
billion would have been 342.5 million originally in that estimate if the 785 million was going to build 2 prisons.
If you're using the math in that way, that sounds like an accurate arithmetic answer, but there was more involved than that, and many things that we've learned. We hadn't built.
Right. I was just driving at the difference being some $700 and something million, and I've heard a number of times that inflation is the reason that occurred. I've lived my life for getting close to 50 years in commercial real estate and construction-related activities. That question behooves a better answer than it was just inflation and that type thing. Are there any detailed have you seen any detailed information that shows exactly what the cost overruns were and what they were for, specifically not in general total dollar amounts?
There were a lot of issues.
Are those available to us to be able to see?
I don't have them, but I think we can go to DOC and the folks that are there, and I'd be happy to take you out there or set up a time for you.
It's just information. I mean, they can send it. I just am curious to look at it and see how it compares to what was going on in the commercial construction industry during the same period of time. They're obviously not the same thing, but they're somewhat roughly similar. in the process of building large projects and all. So
If I could interject, and I know we've had long conversations about this. I think we've had some within our committee related to some of the change orders by the state.
Yes, sir.
Related to the size, particularly the vocation area. And so we knew there was going to be increases. The unexpected, I think, was the concrete price and attached labor almost tripled on this project. So
that's what I was wondering
yes,
about, where
there's
the
detail.
costs were. So concrete and labor are obviously two specific ones.
Yes, sir.
Just haven't heard a lot about it to be able to answer the questions for people that I represent who ask these type questions. And it's not a criticism in any way. It's
Well, I
just
understand.
an asking for information. But we're basically roughly 3 times the cost to build one prison now, and that's going to be 3 times the cost to build 2 prisons now. So that helps to be able to get it out there and get it in place to understand that. And I'll certainly call and ask the question of Department of Corrections for that information. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Any other question by committee? Representative Underwood.
Obviously, what we invest versus what we borrow are 2 different things. So this is just sort of redirect. What you're asking for is an increase of potential borrowings of $500 million. From the 785 to the 1.25. That's what we're asking for today.
Exactly.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions? Do I have a motion? Have a motion, second? Chair will second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The bill receives a favorable report. Thank you, Mr.
gentlemen.
Chairman.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Next bill, Ms. Harper.
Senate Bill 102 by Senator Coleman-Madison, Medicaid providing presumptive eligibility to pregnant women.
Representative Marilyn Lands, I believe, is going to carry that bill. Just a brief description. As you know, members, we've already passed the House version of this legislation.
Thank you, Chairman Reynolds. Thank you, committee. SB 102 is the companion bill to HB 89, the Alabama Maternal Health Care Act. Her bill was...
Stand by request of a committee member.
I move to give the bill a favorable
Have a
vote.
motion, second. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative
Thank you all.
Lamb. Okay, Ms. Harper. Call the next bill, Ms. Harper.
House Bill 357 by Representative Hollis, tobacco products, heated tobacco product definition and tax provided for.
There's the public hearing.
It's not for you to use, Representative Underwood.
Representative Hollis,
It's not
welcome.
a gift.
I'll ask you to cover the bill, and then we'll engage the public hearing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the members. This legislation creates a new tobacco product category, heated tobacco products. The difference is that these products are heated but do not combust like a traditional cigarette. The FDA has determined the product in this category to be over 90% less harmful than combustible cigarettes and appropriate for the protection of the public health. This product is not marketed to kids and do not come in flavors, okay? The proposed bill defines this new category and reduces the applicable excess tax by 50% to reflect the less harmful effects versus a cigarette. Risk-based taxation just makes common sense. Just like we have a fine for speeding, and it is less than the fine for reckless driving, they are both risky, but the cost is higher to discourage reckless driving. We should all want incentive folks to consider a healthier option than smoking traditional cigarette. And this is what this bill does. If the product smells like smoke, that's because I tested on my husband and it worked. And also I tested also, and I am not a smoker and I almost died. So this is to make someone healthier and to get off cigarette smoking. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any questions, Ms. Hollis, before we move forward to the public hearing? Okay, we'll begin the public hearing, and the first one for their opponents is Jane Addams, American Cancer Society, Cancer Action Network.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Reynolds and members of the committee. My name is Jane Adams, and I serve as the Government Relations Director for the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network in Alabama. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak today in opposition to House Bill 357. At ACSCAN, we advocate for policies that reduce tobacco use and protect public health. And this bill proposes a significantly lower tax rate on heated tobacco products compared to traditional cigarettes. This creates an unfair tax structure that benefits the tobacco industry while putting public health at risk. HB 357 proposes a tax on heated tobacco products at a rate of 0.017 per single-use consumable unit, which is substantially lower than the current tax on traditional cigarettes. This discrepancy raises concerns about fairness and public health. By taxing heated tobacco products at a lower rate, the legislation would inadvertently create a tax structure that favors these products over traditional cigarettes. And such a disparity may encourage consumers, particularly price-sensitive youth, to initiate or switch over to heated tobacco products, undermining overall efforts to reduce tobacco use. And I just want to say tobacco products, whether traditional cigarettes or heated tobacco, they are dangerous and can cause cancer. While some claim that heated tobacco products are less harmful, the science does not support this assertion. These products still contain nicotine and other harmful chemicals that can lead to lung cancer, heart disease, and other serious health problems. There's no independent evidence proving these products are safer than cigarettes. Tax policy should discourage tobacco use, not make it more attractive. And studies show that higher tobacco taxes are one of the most effective tools in reducing use, especially among young people. However, by taxing these products at a low rate, this bill could encourage more people, especially youth, to start using them, increasing the risk of developing cancer and other diseases. And I just want to comment real quickly. I have the heat sticks. So you're buying two products here. You buy the device that heats it up at $80, and then you buy these heat sticks, which this is what's getting taxed less. Not the device. That's just a sales tax on the device. This is what's getting taxed less. And they look exactly like cigarettes. In fact, if I had a lighter right now, I could just take one without the device, light it, and smoke it like a cigarette. So if we pass this bill, we're essentially legalizing cheaper cigarettes. You don't need the device. So consider that when you're doing this, that people don't have to use the device to smoke these, what we would consider cigarettes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Any questions for Ms. Adams? Representative Witt.
Quick question. So explain to me the nicotine that's in those sticks. Are they less than regular cigarettes?
The nicotine that's in this, I don't know. It doesn't say on here. It should, but it doesn't.
So there is a chance that
Could be the same, could be more. We know
Could be
vaping
less?
products.
Right.
Vaping products have more nicotine in them, so it could be that you put more nicotine in this. And we do know that people do smoke these just like cigarettes without using the device. There's videos online that have 400,000 views of people smoking them, sharing their experiences. So they can be smoked just like a cigarette.
Because your earlier comments, you specifically talked about
Yeah.
reduce the use of cigarette use.
Sure.
Usage.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah,
And
we
that
and we
was
believe
really- And then I
taxing-
think that, and then you immediately went over to the taxation of it.
Yeah, yeah. We
Okay.
want to. We're interested in discussing ways to reduce the use of cigarette use, cessation, prevention, early interventions for youth. A lot of it, the evidence is higher taxes, keep them out of the hands of youth. Taxing less, we know it's more enticing for youth. They're price-sensitive consumers. We also know that youth, whether or not these have flavors or not, which I kind of dispute that, but we also know that youth are looking for products that don't have that traditional smoke, that don't, that's why they're enticed to vape. So we're, again, we're dealing with a product here that could be really enticing for youth.
Just to follow up, so you said you purchased that this morning? Is
I
that
didn't
correct?
purchase this, no.
Okay.
There's someone else did.
So what is the price of that?
These are, well, they would be cheaper than cigarettes. I think, Ashley, what is it? $5.75. Yeah.
Thank you.
$6.90.
Thank you.
So cheaper than a pack of cigarettes.
Thank you.
So, again.
Thank you. Representative Bracey.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the sticks that you have right
Yeah.
there, are those the sticks that are compatible with?
Yeah, these are for an IQOS product, IQOS product.
Okay,
And
so
there's
those
different products, different sticks. I know there's a couple of manufacturers of them, but these
So the
are.
specific stick that we've been looking at, the device that we're looking at, are those
Let me check.
for that?
Yep, Heats for IQOS, and these are Marlboro for IQOS.
Okay, so those fit into that machine.
Yep, I think so.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't used the machine.
So tell me about
But
you
looks
mentioned
like you
about
smoke these too. So
okay, you mentioned about someone being able to light and smoke it like a cigarette because everything that we've been getting about this particular device is that you cannot do that.
yeah,
you
I can
have
show you a
to-
video.
No, I'm talking about for this particular device. Like,
Yeah.
are you 100% certain that
Let's go outside.
what you're saying?
We'll
I mean,
smoke it right
I can't go outside
Light it right now.
I'm just trying to. I guess I'm just trying to get some clarity because I've heard a lot of information. I've been looking into this and everything that we've been told.
Sure, I
Is
understand.
that you cannot. That you have to use that with this particular device for it to work.
Yeah, so I spoke with my team about that, national experts at ACS Can. They said you can on any of the heat sticks, smoke them like a cigarette. Some of them have extra layers that you would have to rip off, right? And then some of them have metal inside of them, so it would make it kind of dangerous to smoke them.
So it's
But
not
these-
really just like firing up a cigarette. It's not quite
no.
like that.
I will give you that. However, there's
Okay.
tons of videos on YouTube of youth.
And I'll do some research on it. I was just making sure
I can
because
show you
I
that
guess
video.
when I was listening to you, I thought it was as easy.
Yeah,
as
I mean, but
firing up
you'll
a
see
cigarette.
that it has. I mean, it has a filter like a cigarette. It has, the packed
Okay, thank you, Mr.
product
Chairman.
here. So.
Co-Chair Blackshear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is, just kind of recap real quick, as far as
Yeah.
American Cancer Society, what would you
Sure.
say your overall mission of the organization is?
We want to reduce the cancer burden in Alabama. We want to prevent cancer. We want more effective cures for it. That includes research and then access to care. So for me, reducing the cancer burden means let's not sell products you can sell products that cause cancer, but let's not make them more affordable than the other products that cause cancer. I'm thinking specifically of vapes. We're still doing a lot of research on vapes and their cause of cancer, but we see how prevalent they were when people said, oh, this is just for one sort of consumer, and now they're everywhere. We're concerned about the same thing, and it's still a product that causes cancer. So,
All right. So my second question to that is
Mhm.
the reason I asked that is because I agree. I think that's the mission.
Yeah.
And it has been since day one.
right.
But let's take the tax out for a second. I don't want to go down that path because it almost hears like I need more money to go with my agency to have my calls to reduce smoking. And if you go this route, which I remember last year when we had the same public
Yeah.
hearing, I took it as this device would help reduce that. Well, it helped reduces it. Isn't it worth giving up a little tax money if we are weaning people off true cigarettes? And wouldn't that kind of match the mission of the American Cancer Society?
No, it still causes
like
cancer.
you want
so,
more money.
So it still causes cancer. It's like me taking half a shot of liquor or a full shot. I'm still taking a shot of liquor. So, it causes. It causes
I'm just
cancer.
saying, if I
so-
remember correctly, and we'll hear from
Yeah.
them later, because I just thought I remembered last year it was that.
We are concerned about the finance, and I know the children's group spoke last year about their concern with the funding and the Department of Revenue, and I know there was that whole conversation. That's not my overall concern. My overall concern is for price-sensitive consumers, low-income folks, youth, that they see a cigarette that costs them less money than the other cigarettes, and they will buy that and use it.
All right. Well, maybe I may have to say this at the end. So if whoever's speaking for this, Mr. Chair, I would like to hear this answered. If you can't answer it.
Sure.
If I remember from last year,
Okay.
this device was supposed to be, number one, you could not even purchase it if
Right.
you were a non-smoker. It had to be a pathway to wean you off real cigarettes.
Okay.
So that would be the first prerequisite to be able to even purchase this product. So if it was cheaper, it would be cheaper for somebody that's been wasting a lot of money.
I would
potentially getting
love.
cancer from real cigarettes.
You can just buy these separately. I never have to buy the device. I would never have to ever buy the device. I can just buy the heat sticks.
Well, I would love to see that.
And the heat
tried. I
sticks
mean,
are the only thing that are taxed too. That device that you're doing, it's just a sales tax on it. We're not even taxing it as a tobacco device in the same way.
well, I would like
we
to.
would.
Last thing, I would like to see somebody volunteer to try that. I'm not.
I mean, I don't want
wanna
to,
start with
but
this.
if we
Thank
need
you.
to
Let's move
for
on.
science.
We'll move to a proponent now. Jake Jacobs, Philip Morris International. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. And thank you, Representative Hollis, for bringing HB 375. Excited to be back in my hometown of Montgomery to talk about this bill today. I'd like to talk a little bit, 357, sorry. We just had Mardi Gras coming back to business today, so doing the best I can here. I want to talk a little bit about what this bill does and what it doesn't do. What it does is define heated tobacco products, and it places an excise tax on heated tobacco products. The bill uses a 50% reduction compared to combustible cigarettes as a starting point, and that's taking into account the needs that a group has heard from this committee, from the Department of Revenue, from local governments, and other parties. By placing a lower tax on this product that is less harmful than combustible cigarettes, it also embeds the public health policy of harm reduction into the code. We know that heat, rather than burning tobacco, will cause less harm than cigarettes because the overwhelming majority of harmful and potentially harmful constituents are created when something is lit on fire and produces its smoke. And I'm joined today by Dr. Brian Urkula, who will go into much more detail, but to put it simply, it is the smoke and not the tobacco or even the nicotine that leads to deadly disease and death from smoking cigarettes. Placing a lower excise tax on less harmful products is perfectly in line with the economic theory of excise taxation. I think Representative Hollis gave a good example of that same concept applied in the traffic violation system. It will also help signal to adult smokers who don't quit smoking that there is a better choice out there for them. This is also the first step in what will be a long process of addressing the cost of smoking in Alabama. One of my colleagues will get into those numbers in more detail, but while there's no quick fix to bringing down the cost of the state, policies like this can be a starting point for that long-term solution and lowering that burden as smokers transition to less harmful products over time. What HB 357 does not do is jeopardize the provisions of the Master Settlement Agreement. We discussed some of that last year, or affect any of the organizations that currently receive funding from those payments. But it also does not solve the issue of the organically declining cigarette revenue that we've also discussed. But I don't think anyone wants to protect that funding knowing the impact that each dollar collected from cigarettes means for people who smoke and suffer the adverse health impacts. Lastly, but most importantly, this bill does not allow these products to skirt the rules that keep tobacco products out of the hands of kids. Section 2811, that's the T21 law in Alabama, that applies to all tobacco products. This is structured in the code in a way that this would be subject to all of the regulatory and enforcement provisions that anything else is. And beyond that, the FDA has granted a pre-market tobacco authorization as well as a modified risk tobacco product authorization. And while that does come with orders that allow us to state that this is appropriate to promote public health, and that switching from cigarettes to this product exposes your body to less harmful and potentially harmful constituents, it also comes with it a greater marketing restriction complex that we have to operate within and that is monitored on an ongoing basis. Making sure that any tobacco products stay out of the hands of anyone under 21 is vitally important in ensuring that these products do promote public health, as our regulators at the FDA determined was the case with PMI's IQOS product. Thank you again for allowing me to speak today. I'll pause there, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions, committee members? Representative Bracy?
Simple yes or no question, because I know we're quick on time, and we have other committees in session. Do you have to can you smoke that without the device, or do you have to use the device? It's just yes or no. Do you have to use the device to smoke the sticks?
You do have to, well, You cannot smoke these sticks with the device because it will not produce smoke.
I mean,
Used with the device.
But what I'm saying is, do you have to have both of these things together to accomplish what you're trying to do?
Yes, anything else would be a misuse of the product and it wouldn't be something one would try again if they had tried it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jagers.
Thank you.
Next, back to the opponents, Ashley Learley with the American Lung Association. Did I say that right? Close?
Hi, good afternoon. 1 second. Good afternoon, Chair Reynolds. Thank you. And members of the committee, thank you for opening the floor for discussion on House Bill 357. My name's Ashley Lyerly, and I'm with the American Lung Association. And unfortunately, we are opposed to this bill in its current form. As I shared last year, and as you've heard today, heated tobacco products are the latest attempt by the tobacco industry to addict kids to nicotine. Philip Morris International, who is pushing this legislation, offers the most well-known brands of these products, the IQOS, which has taken over the global market, being sold in approximately 70 countries and has far passed its competitor tobacco outlet in Richmond at Book-like stores in previous years. Well, they've continued to use the same marketing concept with pop-up shops and lounges in Austin, Texas, starting in October of last year in 2024, to market IQOS 3, which is the device, while they wait on pending authorization from the FDA for their newest version, the IQOS Illumina. And you'll see a picture of the pop-up shop in your handout. While it's been noted that they've received a modified risk designation from the FDA notes that this is for the device itself, not the actual heat sticks, which come in amber, bronze, and sienna, as well as some other flavors. They were given a designation of heated tobacco product in January of 2023. In fact, Philip Morris applied in January of 2024 for the same classification of heated tobacco products, not a modified risk product, for additional flavors of heat sticks in blue menthol and green menthol. The tobacco industry has a track record of instituting promotional price strategies to lower product prices. This legislation will give heated tobacco products a beneficial tax treatment to reduce the price compared to other tobacco products to make them more attainable for consumers. These products, when available in Alabama, will be priced to attract youth. This pack of heat sticks, as I noted, the approximate price of $5.75, when this tax is applied to it, will be available around $6, a little over $6, unless they adjust the price accordingly when they come on the market. This pack of Marlboro 100s menthol that I picked up in Prattville on the way here today cost me $9.65. I'm not going to pass around the pack because you know what a cigarette looks like. However, these products are very similar in nature, and they will be available in a variety of flavors. The Illumina heat sticks, known as Turia, are available in menthol or spearmint-based flavors. The mauve flavor is described as light and fruity with a touch of menthol, specifically noting flavors of blueberry, mixed berries, and forest mint. Do you know how attractive menthol products are to youth and young adults? The 2024 Surgeon General's report notes that 54.3% of youth smokers ages 12 through 17 reported using menthol cigarettes. It also states that the tobacco industry has designed, engineered, and marketed menthol cigarettes and other tobacco products that deliver multi-sensory flavor experiences to increase the likelihood of tobacco initiation, addiction, and sustained use. The FDA Tobacco Product Scientific Advisory Committee also noted that menthol cannot be considered merely a flavoring additive to tobacco. Its pharmacological actions reduces the harshness of smoke and the irritation from nicotine. No tobacco products, including these products, are safe. Tobacco companies claim that they're less harmful than conventional cigarettes, but there is little evidence to demonstrate the claim, especially in the long term. Early clinical studies that were not funded by the tobacco industry, examining the effects of exposure to IQOS emissions, found evidence of cell poisoning and inflammation in lung cells, which could lead to lung damage, as well as impaired cardiovascular function. In the American Lung Association's annual State of Tobacco Control report, Alabama received all F grades for our tobacco prevention and control policies. If my kids came home with that report card, they would be grounded. This report card also includes our current tobacco tax rate. This week's legislation, House Bill 357, if passed, will continue to solidify our failing grades. Heated tobacco products should be taxed as cigarettes or higher and regulated within the Alabama's tobacco controlled statute. The proposed statute will not have any public health benefit to combat the health and economic burden of tobacco addiction in Alabama. Thank you so much. Happy to take questions.
Thank you. Any questions, Representative Blackshear?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one question. So, hypothetically speaking, I just want
And
to.
if you wouldn't mind speaking up, I'm
All right,
hard of
I'm sorry,
hearing.
my mic's not
Yeah,
working.
no, you're
so
fine. I'm just hard of
normally
hearing.
loud. If this was taxed at the same rate, would you be here against this bill today? If the tax rate?
We would be actually advocating for a higher tax on these products.
Okay, so back to what I asked earlier, is it about the true mission of the organizations or is it about tax dollars?
Yeah.
I guess, do y'all think that tax dollars are the number one way to wean people off cigarettes? Is just to gouge them on price until they say I can't afford it anymore?
Yeah, so our purpose obviously is we know that the data shows that the increased correlation of price of products will reduce initiation and consumption. I obviously want to protect individuals with lung disease. If these products were not even on, I would love them not to be for sale, right? I will also say these products are not a proven FDA tobacco cessation product. There are 7 approved to help people get off products. I will say what we will see, let's date back to 2012 or 2013 when we saw the initiation and marketing of e-cigarettes. We have a youth vaping epidemic. We still have that, right? And we're going to see people transition or become dual users of the products. If you actually go to Philip Morris International, one of their products for the heat stick, the device itself actually contains a heat stick, but also liquid nicotine. So they're going to continue, and those products are available in the international market, and they're going to continue to evolve and offer these products that are going to continue to addict youth.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. I'm not sure who
Chairman
can
Lee.
answer this, but do we have to pass a bill to allow this to be sold? We haven't passed anything for vaping. We haven't passed anything. There's no tax at all on vaping. Just FYI.
Jeff, question. Representative Witt.
Just a quick question. How many cigarettes are in a pack of cigarettes?
20.
How many's in the?
20.
So there's 20 in that?
Yes.
Okay. Are they
they're
12 or
individually
20? I don't know.
They're individually wrapped.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, President. Not any more questions. We'll move to the last speaker, proponent Brian Eckerla. Welcome.
Good morning, or afternoon, I guess. I'd like to thank the committee chairman and the committee for hearing me today. My name is Dr. Brian Eckerla. I'm the Director of Regulatory Science at Swedish Match North America, an affiliate of Philip Morris International. I've studied nicotine and tobacco for about 25 years, holding positions at the NIH and the FDA. And in fact, I started studying it, getting my PhD just up the road at UAB. So it's good to be back. So I am here in support of HB 357, and that is because, you know, in Alabama, cigarette smoking has come down a lot in the last few years, right? But over 500,000 people in this state still smoke cigarettes. This puts, you know, our family, our friends, our neighbors at increased risk of smoking-related diseases such as cancer, cardiovascular disease, and respiratory disease. This takes the lives of over 8,000 Alabamians a year. Now, while this is a tragic loss, one I certainly understand, as I lost my father, Master Sergeant Wesley Paul Eckerla, to lung cancer just last year. And I would note that were I given the opportunity to give him a heated tobacco product, I absolutely would have if it would have gotten him off cigarettes. But this also has huge financial implications for the state. Each year, caring for smokers in Alabama costs almost $2.2 billion in healthcare costs, $310 million in Medicaid costs, and an astounding $5.6 billion in lost productivity. While never starting to smoke is ideal, those who do smoke, complete cessation is the best option for those. But for those who don't quit, switching to a smoke-free product like a heated tobacco product can really reduce one's risk. This is where HB 357 could play an essential role in moving down what the FDA recognizes is a continuum of risk. That's the idea that the health risks for combusted cigarettes are much higher than that of non-combusted or smoke-free products. Heated tobacco products have been on the global market for over a decade, and over 20 million people around the world have walked away from their cigarettes to use heated tobacco products. The FDA has done extensive review, years-long, millions of pages of data on heated tobacco products, and determined that one specific product was appropriate for the protection of public health. This is because there is a fundamental difference between heated tobacco products and combusted cigarettes. That is that heated tobacco products do not burn, no smoke, no ash. They produce an aerosol. The FDA determined that because of this lack of combustion, and I'll quote here, the evidence indicates combustible cigarette smokers who switch completely to IQOS, a heated tobacco product, will have reduced toxic exposure, and this is likely to lead to less risk of tobacco-related diseases. And also that, I quote, they are expected to benefit the health of the population as a whole. Now, these products actually appeal to adults who smoke because they deliver nicotine in a manner that tastes like a cigarette, and it has that hand-to-mouth ritual that smokers are used to. This has resulted in a conversion rate of almost 70%, all the while the youth use of this product remains well below 1%. And you had asked a question about nicotine before. We've done studies on this, and if you look at people using the product over, say, 3 months, and you compare them to cigarette smokers, they will be getting the same amount of nicotine, just about a 95% reduction in all of the other stuff. That's what really helps that switching happen. So our success in reducing the toll of smoking depends not only on having scientifically validated lower risk products, but also giving legal age adults who smoke an incentive to move to things like heated tobacco products. Consumers are watching every dollar these days. It's important to provide a risk proportionate tax on the tobacco product to encourage smokers to leave cigarettes behind. HB 357 does just that. It provides a tax differential between cigarettes and these innovative tobacco products that are significantly less harmful than smoking. HB 357 is not only sound public policy, it is the right thing to do for the 500,000 smokers in Alabama. It helps this legislator to achieve its goals of reducing smoking rates, reducing smoking-related medical costs in Alabama, and positioning the state as a public health leader in the field. For these reasons, I strongly urge you to support HB 357. I appreciate your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
We've heard a lot in the past about secondhand smoke and how dangerous it is. Is there the same impact? Is there any smoke at all with this? And so if somebody's in a car with a kid and they smoke this, what's the risk to the kid itself?
Okay, so I'm going to take this as a two-parter. So as far as what we think of as secondhand smoke, if someone's smoking a cigarette in a room, kind of what's there. We've looked at this. We have these model clean rooms where we model, say, a residential place or an office, and we measure. We have someone use a cigarette and we have someone use the IQOS device. And what we do with them, we measure the chemicals in the air. And what we find is that in the rooms where IQOS was used, compared to where the combusted cigarette was, it's reduced by about 99%, the harmful toxins that we can measure in the room. As far as using the product in the manner that you said, I can't really recommend that. That would be a good thing to do. These products, again, we're talking about relative risk compared to combusted cigarettes. In no way are we saying that these products are safe. We're saying that these products are much reduced in harm and risk.
I wasn't suggesting that they do that in a car, that it was safe. I was wondering if there's a comparison.
That would be the difference, is that the aerosol is much lower levels, even in the room where it's being used. Sorry?
No, that's okay. Just you address the committee.
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
Any other questions by the committee? Okay, thank you, Dr. Eckler.
Of course.
Appreciate that. Any other comments by the committee? I do want to refer to a document that I want to make sure I put my eyes on. I know last year, if I recall, we agreed to move this legislation based on the tax being equivalent to tobacco because of the concerns was mentioned earlier about the master settlement agreement. And I do have a document this year from Mary Martin Mitchell, Executive Counsel from the Department of Revenue, and inversely says, we feel the version, which is the attached bill, will not negatively impact the MSA funding Alabama receives, as the heated tobacco product is a subclass of a cigarette. It is taxed, and Alabama can enforce the MSA settlement provision. So if, with that said, we'll vote on this piece of legislation, Representative Hollis, on March 19th. And I want a quick shout out to Gaines Vaughn for supporting us this week with the general fund. And, oh, is he gone? Well, maybe he's listening in. Okay. Anything else? That concludes our committee meeting. Thank you.